Okay. All right. So the other day I was actually fishing. It wasn't the other day. It was a couple weeks ago. It was Saturday, not this Saturday, but the last Saturday. And so anyway, we were fishing at this place that I went to this spring. Why is that dark? Oh Lord. Okay. Um, and anyway, so uh, we were fishing and the crankbait bite was really good, but it was kind of odd. It was an odd color crankbait. The Strike King 1.5 hard knock. And there was something about the hard knock and the silent crankbait, because unless you get the hard knock, at least as far as the Strike King crankbait goes, if you don't get the hard knock, you're going to get a silent crankbait. Which silent crankbaits are good in some cases, but a hard knock crankbait is just like one knock. It's just loud. And it was working really, really well. So anyway, yeah, what we were doing is we were throwing it up there in the woods, or not in the woods, but right up against the woods where there's a bunch of trees and stuff laying in the water. And then the fish were just smacking it, like right on the first and second crank. But anyway, so this is episode 6 of the podcast. And we actually had tried to do this twice. First person, which was Noah, the second host of this podcast, couldn't be on today. So we got started. Then I went on with Sam England, who was the guest of last podcast. Well, that didn't work. We tried that for like 20 minutes trying to figure out what in the world was going on there. We don't know. But Sam, if you're watching this, that error was on your end, not mine. It was something's messed up with your Gmail. But yeah, so this is episode 6. You can check us out on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this, like watching us, you're watching it on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like. Why am I lagging? This is not good. Okay, there we go. Because like every time it lags now, I'm like freaking out because that's how the whole thing stops.
Yeah, you just lagged.
Okay, so the podcast is available on Spotify and Pocket Cast. I wanted the podcast to be on other platforms, which it eventually will be, but I'm having trouble getting it on there. I don't know why. I don't know if it just got like rejected. Spotify accepted it, so Google Podcast should accept it. I don't know why they didn't. But anyway, so yeah, go and leave us a review on Spotify and any place you get your podcast from that you're listening to this to. I wish it would not lag, because now, like I said, every time it lags, I'm like scared. So Sumner, you look really lagged. Okay, it's going. It's back to normal now. Anyway, so this is Sumner. This second guest of this podcast. Oh, I gotta text somebody so you can say whatever you need to say. If you want to introduce yourself, you can. I gotta text somebody. You're on mute.
Just kicked me out. All right, I'm back.
All right, you can go.
I have no idea what you said because it.
Okay. You can go on. You can say if you need to say anything, you can, because I gotta text somebody real quick.
All right. Well, this is my first time on podcast. I love this podcast. I listen to it while I'm working. It's the most relatable podcast I've ever listened to. So, I go to YouTube. And Sam was good last week.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, that was a good episode. They keep getting better.
Do what?
They keep getting better.
Unfortunately, Noah had to go like right in the middle of the episode. Okay, so here's the thing about Noah. Noah's super busy, so yeah, he has to leave sometimes. But shout out to you, Noah, because you're freaking awesome. But so yeah, Sam was supposed to be on this podcast. And anyway, last week, in case you missed last week's episode number 5, we talked about fishing graphs, and actually one person DM'd me on Fish Brain and told me that was a lame topic to talk about. I'm like, bro, like everybody, um, everybody talks about fishing grouse. I mean, I don't understand what the problem there was. But anyway, if y'all have any top podcast topics or anything I want to talk about, the email is in the description of the YouTube channel and on Spotify. If y'all want to go check it out.
I feel like maybe you should say something on your fish brain because people tend to be more active there.
Oh, I do, but like, see, if I put the link, to anything, the post doesn't get showed. It'll be on my page, but nobody else can see it. Fishbrain won't promote it. So
Gotcha.
yeah. By the way, if y'all hear any dinging, that is somebody texting me on my computer. So yeah. Today we're talking about crankbaits and crankbait fishing because, in case any of y'all hadn't noticed, today is September 20th, and today, with it being September 20th, that's not a special day or anything. But my point is the fish are fixing to start eating bait a lot. They're fixing to start feeding. They're fixing to start going shallow, which they're already shallow right now. Some of them are, but they're fixing to go really shallow. They're fixing to go back to their spring shallow points, is my point. Because, like,
Right.
you go in the springtime, you can catch a fish in this much of water. Well, that's fixing to happen again.
Yeah.
And now they're not going to be that shallow for quite a bit of time. But what I'm getting at is they're going to go from 25, 20, 15 foot of water to 10 and less as we progress further and further into the fall. And it's not fall time right now. It's still hot, but the fish are, the nights, I will say, they're getting a little bit cooler and the days are getting shorter. So these fish are starting to realize, well, it's fall, or it's not fall yet, but fall is really, really close. So it's time to start eating bait. And a square bill, a deep diving crankbait is really, really good to throw right now. And as far as like an 8XD, Strike King 8XD, or a Spro, I don't remember the name of that crankbait, but I fished with them before. They're really good crankbaits. They're a really big crankbait. They're similar to an 8XD and a 10XD, and I fished with both of them. Really good crankbaits. But wow, I just burped really bad. But anyway, so with it being fall time, those fish are going to be going shallow, like I said. And right now is your time to catch them on deep crankbaits. And you may be thinking a deep crankbait is from May to August. Yes, that's true. You can catch them on a deep crankbait from May to August, but you can also catch them on deep crankbait from right now until middle October, because middle October, the water is still 80 degrees, 75 in some places. If there's a lot of current, it's a whole lot cooler than that, but I'm talking about shallow water, deep water. The water is still 80 degrees at surface temperature. But they like a big crankbait right now because they're not super deep, but they are still deep enough to throw a big crankbait and to fish it effectively. And so they're still going to be eating big shad. Some of the shad this time of year is small. Some of it's really big. Most of them are really big. You do have like your big gizzards. They're like this long. If you've ever seen a big gizzard shad, they're like this long. And so, yeah, that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about crankbaits. Now I want to talk about square bills, more specifically the rods and stuff that you want to use for square bill, because I'm not all that skilled when it comes to a crankbait bigger than a 6XD. I've thrown 6XDs a lot. I don't really throw a crankbait bigger than 6XDs because, number one, I don't have the rod to do it, and number two, I don't like to fish that deep of water, because if you're throwing a 8XD or a 10XD, you're primarily fishing in 20 plus feet of water, and I don't like that. Probably because I live in South Georgia and I like to fish shallow. But anyway, Sumner, if you have anything about crankbaits that you want to talk about, go ahead.
I remember back when I started getting into fishing more last couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, crankbaits are like all I used. It's not, I don't recommend that necessarily, but it was working. I had this little crankbait. I lost it. I don't know. It was sad. But anyway, this little green and black crankbait, I was thrown in these hard to fish places, and it would still it'd still get hits. I'd still be catching fish. It's nothing huge, but a fish is a fish. So yeah, crankbaits used to be my go-to. I haven't fished one in a while. I need to get back to that. But yeah.
Something I want to note something about crankbaits. And obviously there's some people that can't have like a rod for each specific type of fishing, and I'm not that way neither. Most of my rods they're not. I have like 2 of them that are technique specific. That is my crankbait rod and my flipping rod. But my crankbait rod is not, because like people, they have big crankbait fishermen have square bill rod, 3XD to 5XD rod, 6XD to 8XD rod, and they have a 10XD rod. That's square bill rod, 3XD rod, 3XD and 5XD rod. That's 2 rods. 6X to 8X, that's 3, and then your 10XD, that's 4 rods dedicated to crankbait fishing. I'm not like that. Normally when I'm getting a rod, especially the rod that I picked up for crankbait fishing, I actually bought this rod a long time ago. It's a quantum rod, and it's a really, really good rod. It's a KVD rod. In case y'all don't know, Kevin Van Dam is probably the best crankbait fisherman that I know of. There are some other good guys out there that fish crankbaits, but Kevin Van Dam is definitely the most, probably, at least in my opinion, the most skilled crankbait fisherman out there. And he designed this rod with Quantum, and now he's with Lose now, but this is when he was still with Quantum. Awesome rod. It's insane. I really like the action of it. Something that's important to know about a crankbait rod is that crankbait rod, it needs to be really, really not like flimsy, but it needs to have give to it. It needs to be able to bend like to the last eye. And crankbait rods, they have a lot of eyes. But if that rod cannot bend to the last eye of the rod, in my opinion, that's the wrong rod for the situation. I'm not saying you can't do that, because I've done it before, but the amount of fish that you catch goes from here to here because they don't rip the hooks. I mean, any kind of treble hook, it's already hard enough to keep them pinned, especially if they're anything over 3 pounds. It's dumb hard to keep them pinned if they're over 3 pounds. I've lost a lot of 5 and 6 pounders on crankbaits, even with the right rod, because they're so powerful and the hooks are that big.
Yeah.
And you got, especially on a big crankbait, some of them crankbaits are huge, and the hooks, the actual hook part is only that big. And you got this crankbait that's this big, and it's just sitting there shaking up and down. And if you ain't got the right rod, it's not okay. It's not good. You're probably gonna lose that fish.
Yeah.
I will say, having when you're fishing square bills, having a short rod is good. Because a lot of times, at least for me, when I'm throwing a square bill, I'm legitimately throwing it in the nastiest stuff that I can put that thing in. Because something that's important to note about a crankbait is, if when you take that crankbait off your rod to go put it back in your tackle box, if the bill on that crankbait is not beat up, you're fishing that crankbait wrong. That crankbait needs to be hitting the wood, the ground, the mud, whatever you're fishing.
Yeah.
Because I had so many times. Last time I was fishing with one, and then multiple times this year, where I've hit something, and then as soon as I go to make that next crank, they smack it. So it's important to make sure you're putting that crankbait in the right spot and having the right rod. Because when you have a shorter rod, you can really place it in a whole lot. You can be a whole lot more accurate with it than it. Because like my overall crankbait rod from square bill to 6XD is a 7-4 rod, glass rod. It's probably not the best rod for a 3XD or a square bill, but it gets the job done. I really catch them on it. It does great for me. But it's important to have a good glass graphite, which is a glass and a graphite rod are going to be composite rod. So either a composite, graphite, or glass rod. And it's actually really good. It's really good to have a composite rod, because it's both of them, best of both worlds put together.
Right.
But yeah, so that's something that's important about crankbaits. As far as rods go, reels, a a 6-4-1 reel is going to be your best bet. Now, square bill fishing, you can probably get away with in fact, I know you can get away with a 7-3-1 because they're not like out deep really getting that thing down. The slower the gear ratio you have, the number one, the longer that crankbait's going to be in the strike zone, and number two, the longer that thing's going to be on the bottom knocking into stuff. But it's good to have a 6-4-1 reel when you're using a crankbait of any kind. But if you got to use a 7-3-1, it works just fine. You will work yourself a little bit more. And for any of you who have not used a crankbait, they're a lot of work. They can require a lot of turning and a lot of cranking and a lot of energy. So if you can, go ahead and get yourself a 6-4-1 reel. Believe me, it changes the game up a lot.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people actually haven't fished with a crankbait. I mean, we're talking basic level
it's just
one type baits out there. I remember, like I said, back when I really first started getting into fishing, crankbaits were the first thing I was really getting into.
And they're easy. They're like everywhere. It's not a problem to find them.
No, you can get them at. Okay, no, you can't. But you can get them at Walmart, and I get most of my gear at Walmart. Not all of it, but most of it. And they got crankbaits out the window, any kind you want.
And like it's funny because there's now I know somebody that has never been fishing before, and that's maybe getting into it, or someone that's been fishing for a while but never really fished a crankbait, or they have but they're not very familiar with colors, the right rod and reel. Colors, there's legitimately thousands of crankbait colors out there. Do all of them work, and can they all catch fish? Yes.
Yeah.
Any bait at the end of the day can catch a fish at some point.
Yeah. Just how much fish and how big fish.
Yeah. It all comes down to how much fish, the kind of fish, and the size of fish.
Exactly.
You take a big jig, for example. That's just got big bass written all over it. You take crankbait, big bass written all over it. But some of these newer people that are new to fishing, they go out and they go to, let's just say you go to Academy. You're looking at this wall of crankbaits, hundreds of crankbaits, different brands, different kinds, different colors. If you're looking at a square bill crankbait, and I'm trying to kind of keep this podcast today, not strictly crankbait related, but right now we're talking about crankbaits, and I kind of want to keep it square bill related because I think that's the most popular one out there, because most people are fishing square bills. There's a lot of people throwing 10XDs and 8XDs, but in order to do that, you got to have access to super deep water, like 20 foot plus, and a lot of people don't have that. So a lot of people are going out, they're going to go buy a square bill, and a good color. My basic colors for square bills are, as far as dirty water goes, I like a black and chartreuse. I like a red. I love red crankbaits. In fact, the one I was catching fish on the other week, it was a really weird red color. It wasn't like a super weird red color, but it was like almost a watermelon red, because it was a clear body and had a green front top and red on the back, and they were just tearing that thing up. But dirty water, black chartreuse, which is a black and a neon, bright yellow, and red. And you can do sexy shad as well. Right now, with it being the fall time, shad colors are going to be deadly, at least down the south. They're going to be deadly. And I don't know about up north right now. I don't know exactly how all that works, how the fall bite works up there, but I'm assuming, if you're up north, there's not a lot of shad, there's perch and bluegill. So if you're looking for a square bill crankbait up there, my best advice that I guess would be go get you a perch crankbait and a bluegill crankbait.
Yeah.
Down here. It's
Sorry,
shad
go ahead.
patterns for the most part. I throw in the wintertime, I'll throw a mix of shad patterns and a mix of crawfish colors such as reds. In the summertime, mostly shad patterns.
Yeah. We need to get somebody on here from the north so that we can
For
kind
real.
of
Because everybody we talk to, okay, Sam is in Missouri, but the person, if we're going to get up somebody on the north, I won't like somebody in Minnesota or something.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of stuff in Missouri that is similar to here, but there's also not a lot of stuff that's not similar. There's also a lot of stuff that's not similar in Missouri.
It's kind of the middle ground. It's
Yeah,
not
kind of.
quite
It's not
really
north, but it's not south. It's middle.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
And he's already been on the podcast anyway, so we need somebody from like way up north
Right.
on the podcast.
We need to find some good
Northern guys know what they're talking about.
I don't know any. Off the top of my head, I don't know any.
Because like Noah, he's in Auburn. I'm in Noah's in Middle Alabama. I'm in South Middle Georgia. Sam, which he's not a member, he's not on the podcast all the time, but he's kind of like our guest or backup person. We tried to have him as a backup person today, but that didn't work. But anyway, Sam's in Missouri. Where are you at again?
Oklahoma.
Okay, that's middle ground as well. There's still a lot of shad up there. Compared to what we have here.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, today we were actually able to film the podcast in daylight hours. I know it's kind of random, but normally when me and Noah film the podcast, it's like at 10 o'clock at night. So yeah. But
yeah, that's nice.
Sumner, is there anything you want to add for right now on crankbaits?
Trying to think. I know it can be really overwhelming looking at all the crankbaits, but honestly, when you're first starting, at least, it doesn't really matter what. Now, obviously, there's better stuff and all that, but at first, it really doesn't matter. Just as long as you get the feel of a good crankbait, and yeah, you got to move up and you got to find better ones, and you'll get to learn. You learn by experience. In my opinion, you learn better from like throwing this thing. It doesn't work. All right, let me go find something different. See if this works. So, in my opinion, you learn better and it sticks with you more if you mess it up, and then you get it back, and then you figure something out, and then you figure it out for yourself, and it feels good. And of course, go ask for help, man. If everybody knows a good fisherman, so you'll get some help or whatever from that.
Yeah, and see, that's a really good point, because in a couple of the podcasts ago, it was a completely different topic. But anyway, I said, don't take one's opinion. Don't make one's opinion your opinion. That's a saying that I really like. And I don't know if anybody, I just kind of come up with that right off the top of my head. But my point is with anything, everybody has their own opinion with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my opinion on crankbaits. You have your opinion on crankbaits. Everybody has their opinion on crankbaits. What colors work, what rods work, what doesn't work. My opinion, a rainbow colored square bill is not the best choice. That's my opinion. Somebody else may catch a 10-pounder on it.
Yeah.
You know, and they might throw it all the time.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is something that has never worked for me. I've tried a lot of crankbait colors. If I were to show you the amount of crankbaits as far as square bills go, because I haven't really thrown deep divers a whole lot. I just really started getting into that this year. If I were to show you the amount of square bill crankbaits that I have sitting in my square bill box right now, we'd be sitting here for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I have a lot of square bill crankbaits. And all of them I have so many of them from different trial and errors that I have a box of square bill colors that work and square bill colors that don't.
That's a lot of square bills.
I probably have 15 or 16 of them in one box that work, and then probably 20 that don't. Because I just like buy. Okay, something I don't want to make another point. Lunkers TV, awesome guy. I don't know if you've seen his channel or not.
No.
But he He made a really good point. He was trying to learn how to fish a scrounger. Not familiar with that lure at all. I know it's a really weird looking lure. It's got a little head on it about that. It's got a head on it about that big and a little plastic piece behind it. Anyway, you throw a little swim bait on the back of it, but he bought every one they had at the store that he went to. Every one. He tried them. Which ones he didn't work, he threw away. Which I'm not gonna throw them away, but like I've legitimately bought. Every time I go fishing or to a store, I buy some kind of crankbait color that I think might work or that might not, but I want to try it.
Right.
That's because I'm trying to get better and better with my crankbait fishing. But yeah, don't take somebody's opinion as your opinion. Don't make somebody's opinion as your opinion. Everybody's opinion is either the same or it's different. And yours could be the same and it can also be different. So, I mean.
And it's based on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's based on your experience, because like that little green crankbait I was telling you about, my friend is the same one and he hates it because he can't catch anything on it. But it's all based on your experience and kind of where you're at. Like what works for me may not work for you, or if it works for both of us, it may not work for that guy in Minnesota. So it's based on your experience and your preferences too. So
like I said, I don't like I'm trying to, my phone charger is acting weird. I'm trying to make sure it charges. I don't like there's just one color crankbait. It's called, what is it called? Oh yeah, it's chrome blackback. That is a extremely popular color in crankbaits, rattle traps, top waters. I do not catch fish on that crankbait color at all. That crankbait is sitting in my crankbait box at my bad color crankbait box right now. And if I were to tell somebody, and there's going to be a lot of people that DM me on Fish Brain like, hey, I just got an 8-pounder on this crankbait yesterday.
Good for you, man. Doesn't work for me.
Great. I would rather throw a chrome blueback. I like a chrome blueback, especially in a rattle trap.
Oh yeah. Those things they slap around here. I can't even. Yeah, I can't even express it.
But yeah, it all just goes down to preferences and your opinion. Don't please, we talk about a lot of things on this podcast. Anything you take from this podcast, don't make it your opinion.
Yeah, don't make it your
own. What I'm telling you is what I think, and what I think is the best option. Do it with anything. Do your own research on it. Find out
your own opinion.
Do what?
Make your own opinion.
Yeah, make your own opinion. Don't let I'm gonna give you my opinion. Take it for what it is. Do whatever you want with it.
Exactly.
With anything, fishing.
Don't let anybody tell you what you believe.
Do what?
And don't let anybody tell you what you believe.
But yeah, so I just thought we needed to bring that up about the crankbaits. Don't. You ain't got to take my opinion and make it your opinion. I mean, you can if you want to, great. Yeah. But it's better to form your own opinion in anything.
Mm-hmm. And there's no right or wrong.
Yeah, especially in fishing. There's no right or wrong.
If it works, go for it.
And there are some things that are right and wrong. I'm not talking about that in this podcast today. But like I said, my opinion, may be wrong. Your opinion may be right.
Right.
I may be wrong. You may be right. I may be right. You may be wrong. I don't know. That's your opinion. If you think you're right, great. If you think you're wrong, great. But anyway, there's no, especially in fishing, there's no right or wrong.
Right.
If it works for you, do it.
Yeah. Do what makes you happy.
Yeah, for real. Do what makes you happy. I mean, there's before the podcast that I just filmed earlier or attempted to with Sam, we'd actually got into a part of the podcast. We were talking about expensive people having expensive fishing gear and people not having expensive fishing gear. I've had people tell me that there's no need to have expensive fishing gear like I have, and I'm not trying to brag about my fishing gear, but some of my combos are over $150. Most of them are.
Yeah.
And people, there's two people in particular. I'm not gonna say their names.
Yeah.
On Fish Brain, they'll DM me or they'll comment on my post like, "Hey, why you got that combo? You know, there's no sense in paying that much money for that combo." I was like, bro, I had the money to do it. You know, I did what I want with my money. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you what to spend your money on.
Hmm.
You know, if a $20 Walmart combo works good for you, go for it. You know,
Yeah.
do whatever you want to. But if there's somebody out there that's looking for a combo and they got the money to spend on it, like good money to spend on it, go for it. Buy
Yeah.
that really expensive combo if you got the money. If you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of $130 combos that work really, really good. My
Hmm.
Mock Smash, for instance, by Lose. Best $130 combo I've ever used.
Yeah. I've got a Abu Garcia. I don't even remember the model name, but it is the best combo I've ever gotten. It was maybe 120. Good price, great combo. I love it. It's not quite as sensitive as I'd like, but I knew that coming into it. So yeah, that was great money I spent.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and like I have a reel. My crankbait reel is a Lose American Hero. I would like a little bit better crankbait reel, but for $60, dude, I throw
Yeah.
6XDs on that reel, and I throw square bills on that reel. That is
Mhm.
the best uh crank, and it's like a $60 reel, dude. It's
Yeah.
insane for $60. That has to be probably the best reel I've ever used. Now, I only use it for crankbait fishing because I don't want to use it for Texas rig or whatever, because it's a 6-4-1 reel. I like a 7-3-1 for my Texas rig and whatnot. And in case you don't know, a 7-3-1's faster, a 6-4-1's slower.
Right.
Line per turn. But anyway, great reel, dude. I fish with it. It does great. I would like a little bit higher end reel to crankbait with, but honestly, I'm not worried about it because my crankbait reel that I got right now is just fine. You know, it's a freaking $60 reel. It does just fine for me. What?
So kind of funny story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Spear one that I got at a pawn shop. I spent like $15 on it, and I've caught more fish on that than any other combo I have. Because I looked at it, I was like, I love the cork handle, I love the cork ones, and so I was like, well, I'll give it a shot, and it's been great. It still works great. I don't even know how old it is, but it's old, and it works like a dream.
Yeah. I don't know how long we've been talking. This podcast was planned so spontaneously.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Never been called up like that by a complete stranger to ask if I could be on their podcast. But hey, I'm down. Cool with that.
Well, see, we were actually supposed to have you on like what was it? Was like the second episode, the third episode 3, I believe. The Afghanistan episode. I think it was you.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it you?
I have no idea. Nobody ever told me.
No, it was somebody else. I don't even know. I don't remember who it was. Who was that? I don't remember. But anyway, if you're watching this podcast, I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. I deal with so many people in a day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know who you are.
do what?
You know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. Anyway, yeah, we were supposed to talk to them. That never worked out that day. So me and Noah just went on and did the podcast ourselves and talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
That podcast did pretty good. The last one did really well, or not the last one. Yeah, the last one did good. Because a lot of people were watched that podcast. I think that's had Sam on. I don't know. And then episode number 4 did well as did just fine as well. But yeah, like I said, keep watching the podcast, please, because we talk about a lot of things on the podcast. And yeah, we're actually going to be, I'm thinking in the next, whenever Noah gets back on, whenever he gets back here, which hopefully will be the next episode. I'm hoping we'll be able to get into Revelation because we were wanting to study Revelation, which we are. Because here's the thing, I'm in Revelation. I've studied everything from chapter 8 to the end. I've never studied from chapter 8 back. I've skimmed through it, but I hadn't. And when I read Revelation, it wasn't like a in-depth study. It was just me reading it. So I'm hoping during this series that we're doing the podcast, we can really go in depth on it. And it's not going to be every single episode. And it's not going to be the entire podcast episode. We're just going to be spending like half the podcast talking about Revelation because Revelation is a really cool book. There's a lot of strange things that goes on there. I don't know if you've read it, Sumner, but as far as like once you get to chapter 8, there's a lot of weird things that happen. Because you get to chapter 8, I'm not sure where exactly the 7 plagues start, but the 7 plagues are like different things that are going to happen to the earth once the second coming happens. But and then it talks about what's going to happen to Satan, what's going to happen to the people who never accepted Christ, never put their faith in Christ, and then talks about what heaven is going to be like. It's crazy because they legitimately used a algebraic equation in the Bible. In Revelation, I thought it was really crazy that they did that. But yeah, there's an algebraic equation in the Bible. Okay, it's not really an algebraic equation, but they obviously used it in there because from what I was getting from it, there was algebra used in the formation of heaven. if that's not crazy, it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. So the 7 plagues are in Revelation 16.
Okay, chapter 16.
Yeah.
I'm glad you looked that up because I didn't remember. But anyway, chapter 8. Let me see what chapter 8 is even saying. I don't have my Bible with me right now. It's in my room. Let's see. Let's see what chapter 8 is saying. Revelation 1. Go to chapter 8. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not. It is the plagues. Well, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's the 7 seals.
Oh yeah.
The different seals. It says in chapter 1, and when he had opened the 7th seal, or not chapter 1. I'm sorry. Chapter 8, verse 1. There was a silence in heaven about the space of an hour and a half, of half an hour. I'm sorry. And I saw the 7 angels, which stood before God. To them were given the 7 trumpets, and another angel came and stood at the altar, given a golden censer, and they were given unto him much that he should offer it with prayer of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's giving like an introduction to the different things that are going to happen. And it says in the last chapter, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying in a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. Okay, yeah, so there's different things that are going to happen. There's different angels. There's 3 angels that have trumpets that they're going to sound. And if I'm not mistaken, each trumpet, or not each trumpet, but it may be each trumpet, I'm not sure, are going to say something that are going to represent each plague. And it says in verse 10, chapter 8, verse 10, it says, and the 3rd angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the 3rd part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the same of the star is called wormwood. Yeah, that's the name of the star that's going to fall. and the third part of the water became wormwood, and many men died of the water because they were bitter. Anyway, so like I said, we'll be discussing what wormwood is, discussing some of the words that are found in Revelation,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Just an in-depth study on Revelation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and on that, so there's somewhere I want to say it's in Revelation 16, where it says the woman is dressed in purple with pearls around her neck, and then goes on to something else. And I found it interesting. A friend pointed this out to me, that at the inauguration in January, that's what Kamala Harris was wearing. So I don't know if that means something. Who knows? I don't want to like jump to conclusions, but yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my pastor about it, and he didn't. He said he wasn't real sure. He didn't think that was what it was, but so
And,
yeah.
I want to actually make a point about something in Revelation. Now, Sumner, I'm not sure of your opinion on this. Never spoke about this with you, but the vaccine. People talking about it. And I'm not getting in deep about the vaccine, but people saying that it's the mark of the beast. I do not believe it's the mark of the beast, and here's why. Because in Revelation, it talks about. Let me Google exactly where it's at because I don't remember. It talks about the mark of the beast being on your right hand and on your forehead. Nobody shoots the vaccine on your forehead or your right hand.
Yeah.
And besides, it's a mark.
Yeah.
It's not a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it had a chip in it,
Yeah, I don't believe that either. But
and even if it had a chip in it, which I don't believe it does, the only way for it to even be the mark of the beast is it has to be in your right hand or your forehead. That's what the Bible says.
right.
Let me Google exactly what verse that is. And like I said, people can have their opinions on the vaccine, whatever. I don't care. But from my perspective, in my opinion, of what the Bible says in Revelation, it's not the mark of the beast. I do not believe that.
Yeah, I don't either. I had a lady tell me once at a job I had, I was carrying some stuff out to her car, and she's like, "This vaccine, young man, this is the mark of the beast." And she was like ranting about it, and I just kind of stood there and let her explain all of it, and then I just took the tip she gave me and left. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I'm on the clock, so I don't really want to get into an argument." But it was interesting. It was the highlight of my day for sure.
And it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. The image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Meaning people, let me read that again just so people can hear this. In Revelation 13:15, and it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Meaning, if you're still here when that happens, if you do not worship the beast, you're going to be killed. Then it says in 16, and he calls all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. They don't shoot the vaccine in your right hand or on your forehead. They shoot it on your arm, right here or here, wherever you choose. And that no man might buy or sell, say if he had the mark, meaning if you ain't got the mark, you cannot buy or sell, or the same, the beast, or the number of his name. And it says in 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of beast, for it is a number of man, and his number is 666. Something else that's kind of weird to me is people and I'm not a superstitious person when it comes to like what you call it, spirits or whatever, as far as like ghosts. I do believe that there are demons. I do believe that for a fact because the Bible says there are, and I believe there are ghosts, but I do also believe that there are spiritual ghosts, I guess. But my point is the number 666, I do believe that is something to do with the beast, because it says, here is
Yeah.
wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is number of man, and his count number is 603 score and six. That's 666.
Yeah.
So I do believe that the number 666 does have something to do with Satan, and the beast. But as far as like some of these things that people talk about, that you see in movies and stuff like that, I don't believe any of that. The only spirits and stuff that I believe in are stuff that comes out of the Bible.
Right.
Because there are demons. The Bible says they're demons. They're in Revelation. They're in many other chapters of the Bible, and they also say that there's ghosts. I mean, it talks about the angels. Angels aren't what you think they are.
Right.
Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't. It actually talks about the angels that are sitting next to God. I'm not sure when it is or when it's going to take place. Maybe right now, I don't know. But there's a couple angels that are like really weird looking. They got like 3 heads and stuff like that. Weird random stuff like that. That stuff, those are not demons, those are angels. Like I said, I do believe in that because it's what the Bible says. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of weird stuff in Revelation. We're going to be talking about it and touching on that and breaking down different words and stuff that are found in Revelation, and why John wrote Revelation. The first parts of Revelation are good because I think it's important to read those because it talks about who wrote the Bible or who wrote Revelation and why he wrote it. I'm not sure the exact verse, but I read it the other day, and it talks about why Jesus told John to write Revelation. He wrote he wrote other books in the Bible, but it's crazy because like he was given a vision, and it's something else that I want to know is he was given a vision. That's what God gave him.
Yeah,
and
that's why he wrote it.
That may not even look like that. Is what's weird. He was just given a vision. No people have seen it because people are dead and in heaven, and people are dead and in hell. But what I'm getting at is nobody that is alive right now has seen that or can even think about it.
Exactly.
They can't even think about it. The Bible says that no man can even fathom or begin to bring up the thought of what heaven, hell, and places like that are actually like.
Yeah, we always think of like the pearly gates and gold
and all that's there because it says in the Bible, but
it's better than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, it's better than we can ever imagine because John the Baptist was just given a vision, not the actual thing.
Exactly.
He just wrote down what God told him to write down.
Right.
And
who knows? It may be like he said. It may just be his interpretation. Like, because you can't describe it in words. It's too beautiful for that. But,
and I do believe that it's similar to that. I do believe it's similar because that's what God told him it was. But like I said a second ago, the Bible says that no man can even think about what it's actually. You cannot process. The human mind cannot. And John the Baptist was human, so he couldn't even process the actual look. I believe that God just gave him the base model of what it looks like.
Just kind of like a glass darkly, like Paul says, just seeing it in a glass dimly, not in its full glory.
I believe he gave him just enough to write down in Revelation.
Yeah.
But anyways, I do believe that is about time to wrap up the podcast. I am glad you were able to come on because it was almost bad. We almost weren't able to film a podcast this week. I'm sorry we don't have 2 podcasts this week, so we're only gonna have one. This podcast is dropping on Wednesday, September the 22nd. I keep thinking today's Tuesday for some reason.
Yeah, I do too.
But anyway, so thanks for being on, Sumner, and
no problem.
We'll have you back on later on in later podcast.
Sounds good.
All right, thank y'all for watching, and we'll catch y'all on the next podcast.